It feels pertinent to express something specific today. Oh, this rain is lovely. So, something that's been discussed before, but that feels important to reiterate. Emotions are not something that anyone makes you feel. Whatever emotion is being experienced, is being felt in this moment, it's entirely within your control. Follow me on this. An emotional response, which is something that is felt, and we tend to refer to it as feeling, but feeling and emotion are slightly different things. You do feel emotions, but you can also feel other things that are deeper than emotion. The emotional response that you are feeling in a given moment is actually the result of your perspective. It's not the result of what someone said or did or a situation. It is the result of your perspective, your view on, and typically thought about whatever that was, whatever was said or done is happening. No one and no thing makes you feel. Your feeling, your emotion is result of your perspective. The same is true for everyone else. You don't make anyone else feel an emotion. You are not responsible for their emotions. Whatever emotional experience is being had by another, that is theirs and theirs alone. It is not a result of your behavior. It is not a result of whatever is taking place. It's a result of their perspective on that, their viewpoint on that. Typically, it's one that has resistance balled up in it. So, relinquish the emotional control over others. You are not only not responsible for how they feel, your finger doesn't touch that dial. You have no need, and it's only an egoic function that drives us to try to manipulate one another's emotions, to try to control that. We do that in a lot of ways. Trying to make someone angry, trying to evoke an emotional response of some kind, because it builds ego up. It makes ego feel powerful, because we've convinced another into unconsciously giving away their power to feel emotion to us. But at the same time, engaging in that power struggle, we've given up our own ability to feel. Because if we can't evoke that response, that desired emotional response from an individual, then we feel less than. It's all ego. It's all ego-based. That's not an insult to ego. Ego is not a bad word, and it's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. Ego engages in the power struggle. It tries to make another ego, which is a mind-identified self, come to a certain viewpoint that then produces the desired emotional response. And then it feels powerful for having done that. This is giving away your power. This is leeching power from others. It's not the way we intend to be. So begin by reclaiming your control over your own emotion. Your emotional experience is within your control. It's not caused by another. No one else has emotional power over you. They cannot make you feel emotion. In the same breath, you are relinquishing that control over others. They have no power to make you feel anything. You have no power to make them feel anything. Whatever is felt, whatever is experienced by our own perspective, by our own choice. And it is a choice. So here's the next piece that helps us make that choice a little more consciously. Start with reclaiming whatever your experience is and taking ownership of your choosing to experience it. Whatever emotion is being experienced, that's your choice. Whatever emotion someone else is experiencing, that's their choice. There's no wrong choice. There's no wrong emotion. It's not wrong to be there. It's not wrong to choose it. It's just what is. Except if you are feeling an emotion, you are feeling it on purpose. Make it on purpose. Reclaim your power in that. So now, if that emotion is something that you perceive as unpleasant, here's the next thing. The next thing to realize is that emotion is not actually yours. It doesn't actually belong to you. I'm not saying it belongs to somebody else. I'm saying it belongs to the mind-made self. It is the mind-made self, which we tend to refer to as ego, which by its perspective is generating and creating the sensation of this emotion. And because of your identification with that mind-made self, it feels like yours. It's not actually yours. In truth, it's just energy. It is energy. It's not that dissimilar from electricity. It is a charge. The ego, the mind-made self, by its perspective, creates a charge, an energetic charge that is felt as an emotional sensation. Just like electricity, that doesn't belong to you. That energy isn't yours, and it's not in your control because it's not yours. You see, there's another level of this, of relinquishing the control. You relinquish it from others, and then you see deeper within the self that the emotional experience being had within you is not actually yours. That's actually ego's emotion. It's only because we tend to call ego self that we get wrapped up in it and therefore call it our emotion, my emotion. In much the same way that the dwelling in which we are inhabiting, we tend to call mine, right? That's not actually yours. It's just a dwelling. It's just the place you happen to be living. It doesn't belong to you. You can sign your name on a piece of paper. It's not yours. Your DNA is not inlaid in those bricks. It's not you. But we tend to call a house mine, and so we tend to call the electricity that flows through that house mine as well. So when the power goes out or surges or something happens with it, we say, my power is out. My power short-circuited. My power did this. That's not your electricity. Can you see that you have no ownership? It's just electricity. It happens to be flowing through the house in which you are dwelling. None of it belongs to you. None of it is yours. It just is. It is where you are. That electricity flowing through that house happens to be a part of your experience. None of it belongs to you. When you can see this and relinquish ownership of it, it no longer owns you. Claiming ownership of anything actually just gives that power over us, because there is no ownership. Nothing belongs to anyone. When we try to claim ownership, we try to possess, it possesses us. That's the same power struggle. It's the same manipulation taking place. So when you can see within yourself, the emotional sensation being experienced is not mine, but it is flowing through me. It is flowing through this dwelling in which I am inhabiting, and therefore I am feeling it. It is a part of my present experience. It is present. It is here, but it's not me and it's not mine. So now I can just be present with it. I can be present for it. I don't claim ownership over this emotion being felt, but I don't deny that it's here. It's here. So let me witness it. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't threaten me. It's not my emotion, but it's present. Let me be present with it. You do the same for the ego self as you do for another self. Relinquish ownership. Relinquish identification with emotion. It's the only way to truly stand in your power and to feel it, and to feel the freedom, the liberation. Now there's nothing weighing you down. When nothing belongs to you, you belong to nothing. You're free, you're unlimited, you're unbounded. That is your true state. That is your true, natural, authentic self. Not attached to anything, not resistant to anything, just not attached to it. It is what is. You will still feel, in fact, you will feel, there are certain feelings, different from emotions, that are yours, that are a part of your natural self, and that arise naturally when you are engaged with presence, with the self. These are feelings such as peace. Peace is not an emotion. Peace is that which is felt because it emanates from deep within you. Joy, true joy, is not an emotion, different from what we might call happiness of the ego. Joy is something that emanates from deep within you. Love is not an emotion. It is felt. It is what you are. And when you are being your most natural, authentic being, it emanates, it rises up naturally within you, and so is felt. But it's a feeling. It's not an emotion. It's a feeling. I know they sound the same, but you can feel the difference. It's not something you can quite comprehend with the mind, and the feeling of that difference is not an emotion. It's just a feeling. You can feel the nuance, the edges of it, the shape of it, the texture. It's different. It's a different experience. An emotional experience is something you feel, but a feeling of peace, a feeling of bliss, a feeling of love, that's you. That's you in touch with yourself, embodying your authentic, natural state, your pure state of conscious awareness. These feelings arise naturally when you are in touch with that. And you can get in touch with that in many ways. But particularly when strong emotion is present in yourself, within yourself or another, recognize that emotion isn't being caused by anyone or anything outside of you. You are not causing an emotion, an emotional experience in another. And furthermore, it's not yours. It's created by the perspective of the mind-made self, referred to as ego, and it's only because of conscious identification, unconscious identification of consciousness with ego, with the mind, that creates the sensation that that emotion belongs to you, and therefore is yours. When you can create that third degree of separation and see the ego in operation within this dwelling, then the emotional charge, the electricity that is flowing through this house, is stepped back from and witnessed fully, witnessed truly, allowed to express fully, allowed to flow freely, which is all it wants to do. All energy wants to do is flow. You can let it flow by disidentifying with it. When you're identified with it, you're claiming ownership, and that means you've got it in a stranglehold. And it's like a Chinese finger trap. The harder you fight it, the harder it fights against you. Let it go. Step back from it. See that this is not your emotion. This is ego's emotion that felt like yours because for a brief period you were unconsciously identified with ego. It's not a problem. It's not a big deal. It's not anything. It's just what was. You see it, you become aware, you step back, you relinquish control over what ego is experiencing, and now you're present for ego's emotional experience, and you're holding space for it. You are holding the frequency of your authentic self, and you are holding space for ego to have the emotional experience so that energy can flow freely and actually release. It's just the self expressing. That's all it is. Let the self express. Hold the space for ego. Hold the space for ego within. Hold the space for ego without. Witness it. That's it. That's it.